the app in late autumn 2014, so roughly almost 2 years ago. We are pretty small. We are just a team of 4, the 3 co-founders and yeah, 1 iOS developer. And since then, we hit quite a thing here. We got over 100 million users so far, and these users have been creating over 1.5 billion videos. These are thousands of years of videos that all these users created. And it's a global phenomenon. So there's not a single country in the world where people have not been downloading Dubsmash so far. And many of you might have asked, OK, how the hell did you guys do that? In less than 2 years, such a growth, why? And it's actually pretty simple. On the one hand side, we have that pop cultural content, audio content, where you as a user have a connection, a very good memory with it. And by choosing a sound file, we provide you with a template. Because it's a fixed length, every sound file is between 1 and 10 seconds. It tells you what to say. So the text that is being speech, you just have to lip sync to it. You don't have to speak on your own. That removes the awkwardness. And at the same time, because you record yourself and share it to your friends, it's becoming very personal. So the recipient knows your face, and he knows how you sound. But suddenly, he is confronted with a video where he uses one of your, let's say, most favorite movie that you went together when you were kids to the screens and enjoyed a lot. And suddenly, he's speaking with, let's say, Darth Vader voice or whatever. It's super entertaining and is a lot of fun. So it's pop cultural content, it's the personal connection you have to these videos, and it's trying to remove these awkwardness. And what we see Dubsmash as is a natural progression in communication. So the next step after the emoji is basically the dub for us.
Ever seen guns like these before?
Right? So it's much more expressive. And many of you might have asked, OK, that's cool, that's nice, you got a lot of traction, how do you make a business out of that? And yeah, as with every startup, we have to find our way. We are at a very early stage right now, so we are focusing quite a lot of product development. So the whole business part, we just run a few experiments, but we already have been very successful in executing partnership campaigns. So for example, as a brand or as a movie studio, as an artist or as a music label, you can basically upload content to our app, to our platform. So the sound files from, let's say, the next upcoming movie, we had Star Wars on it, we had Star Trek on it, we had a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Even Rihanna launched her latest single exclusively on Dubsmash. And they put this content up, and the users get exposed to it and start engaging with it. So it's not as intrusive and simple as just a banner ad or so. It's really that people getting engaged with that content. And now you can even, and I'm going to talk about Dubsmash 2.0 that we launched a couple of weeks ago a little further, you can now even post these videos back to the community. So on Dubsmash 1.0, you were just able to share externally to iMessage, Facebook Messenger, and WhatsApp. But now you can even post it back into the app and let the community also consume these videos, and thereby keeping the cycle closed from creation to consumption, creation and consumption. So this is how Dubsmash, well, 0.1, the very first version that we launched to the App Store looked like. It's really crappy, right? It's actually ugly. But it showed a way how we work. And well, I can also show you a picture on how we worked back then. We started the company in a 50-square-meter office in Berlin. Actually, it's in the basement, as you can see. That was our content team. This is our development team. My desk is back here, and there was our other back-end developer. So it was pretty tight in that office. But back then, we started it because we learned a lot from our previous apps. So Dubsmash is not the first app that we built. It's actually the 4th app. And we've been experimenting a lot, almost 2 years in the space of mobile and video creation. And it's not very easy, and there were some hard times because all of these previous apps, none of them were really successful. But we learned a lot, and these learnings we put into Dubsmash, and a few of our principles that guide us, I'd like to present to you. The first principle is iteration. So what started as this screen, basically, the first version, we iterated over and over And this is now how the app looks at the moment. I won't promise that it will look like that forever, but iteration is a core principle of ours. We are a very data-driven company, so everything that we build, we need to make it measurable, because if we can't measure it, we can't tell is it good or not, people like it or don't, because you cannot observe your user in the mobile space. So tracking and analytics is a really, really important tool for us. We use A/B testing quite a lot. So when we develop a new feature or when we redesign a screen, we basically test that in a very small market. You often use New Zealand or Australia for that because it's an English-speaking market, it's high iOS penetration, and they're pretty close, like from a society, to our main target market, which is the US. And we test it there, we iterate on it, and once we feel comfortable in saying, okay, this feature is going to work, then we roll it out. And if things don't work, well.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
Yes, we trash features as well. So if things don't work, we just throw it away. It's sometimes hard to throw code away, but that's how a startup has to work in order to be fast. The second thing is passion, right? We have a vision, which is building the largest mobile video communication platform. And with every evolution, it always takes a while for people to adapt. People usually don't like change, but the moment you drastically change things, it takes a little while for people to adapt. So while we are building our product and adding new features which make video creation easier and even more fun for the users, we have to be very persistent on that. And of course, it takes a little while, but we are very, very passionate about our goals and our vision, and we think we're going to succeed with that. The third thing is hacking. We are a tech company. We build software. It's our mobile apps for iOS and Android, but also a very, very powerful back-end system that drives our apps. In average, we have about 100,000 requests against these systems every minute. And that's 24/7 because users are across the globe. So instead of building perfect software, we decide to build what is right for our users. So we do that a hacking way. And that's something I think many startups are failing on, especially if they're coming from the tech background, because engineers like to build things and often are more focused on building great things instead of building what is the right thing. So hacking is one of our core principles, and we host meetups. We do hackathons internally and externally, and it looks like this.
3, 2, 1, go!
So we get the people in, we have a few topics, we discuss, we brainstorm, and then we just build. And if things work out, and even after a hackathon, we ship stuff right into production. With a weekly release cycle that we're having, we get our iteration really fast to the users, we learn a lot, we integrate early, and that gives us a very good foundation in order to act fast. And of course, we kind of see ourselves as a unicorn. And we even have one in our office. Her name is Sarah. She's always doing a great job. So that's how we built Dubsmash. Started in 2014. It took us 2 days in the German App Store to reach #1. We grew to the Netherlands, to France. At the end of the year, early 2015, it jumped over to the UK, and from there to the US, which is now became our largest market. We had a super boost in South America, South Africa as well, although the market is a little bit smaller. And even in Russia, we have seen quite some tremendous growth over the recent months. And coming from that creational tool, and you know a couple of these creational tools for video and photo on the app stores, they tend to hype, and then people ask what's next. And we thought the right step is combining the two trends of video and private messaging into one platform. And that's why we launched Dubsmash 2.0 a couple of weeks ago. And in Dubsmash 2.0, you can now connect with your friends. You can find them. You can add your address books, and we will suggest your friends that you can connect to with. You can still create, and we are constantly iterating on the creation form. So for example, we launched a feature, we call it audio manipulation, where you can record yourself saying something, And then, because we want to get rid of the awkwardness of your own voice, you can either pitch up and pitch down, so you sound like a chipmunk or you sound like a devil. It's super funny. You have to try it out. Cool thing is when you create it, you can directly communicate with your friends on the platform. So you can send dubs to one-on-one groups, to one-on-one, like between two persons, and on groups where your family or your football club or your school buddies or your working colleagues are in. And of course, you can also discover new content. And with our moments that we also recently launched, we allow people to channel their videos back into the community and that they can also enjoy videos of others. So for those of you who would like to join us on our journey, we are always looking for keen and ambitious developers in the mobile space who would like to change the way how people use video for communication. But for those who are not developers, I'm really, really excited to talk to you today, to hear your opinions. And I wish you all a great day here at the Target Summit 2016 in Moscow. And I would say, let's say it with video. Thanks a lot.
Hello. Awesome. Thank you very much, Daniel. I think that was a great presentation. I think we might have some questions maybe from you guys. I'm going to ask the first question.
Yes.
So I know that you guys didn't really buy advertisement, to
not a single cent
to become popular. So how did you do it? Do you think it was your product, that really made it so viral, or what was it? Did you know the right people in the right countries, to kind of launch it? I mean, right now people are also working with influencers, right, to promote their apps. Maybe they know some influencers, that they're going to say like, oh, this is a cool app, download it.
Talking about influencers, that's one thing we learned with the app that we built previously. It was an app about creating music videos. And as a small startup with literally no users, if you try to get influencers, they don't care because you're unknown. They're only interesting to them if you are big, because then it's, a win-win situation. You promote the influencer promotes you. So that didn't work. What we did, we really started super small. We leveraged Apple's enterprise profile in order to ship an app to end users without going into the App Store. That's a hacky way around that App Store because you have to go through review cycles, and back then it took almost 2 weeks to get a new version out, which is pretty damn long if you want to iterate fast. So we still we passed that with the enterprise profile, and thereby we're able to ship like every day whenever we wanted. And we started really small. I was going through all my address book contacts and sent these videos out to my friends, like really one by one. That's what we did for the first week. And we got very positive feedback from them, so I thought, okay, they like us, so maybe it's not a good idea. Let's ask some people who don't know us and maybe don't like us. They might be more honest. So we went to one of these tech meetups that take place in Berlin every month, where young startups, entrepreneurs present their ideas. And I was presenting it in front of 150 people. And there, they loved it. And from there on, it literally grew completely organically. We never spent a single cent in it. Of course, what's important to launch in new markets, you need to translate the app. That's definitely very helpful. You need to have content in that app that is localized, especially sound content, because what's a good example? Yeah, for English-speaking country, what's interesting in the US is not necessarily interesting in Singapore, although there's also a minority speaking English. So you really have to localize the content. And I think it's the format itself that made it grow that fast, because you do not create a video to consume it yourself. You create a video to send it to someone, to send a message to someone, and the receiver sees that and wants to do something on its own and sends it out to more friends. So it's literally organic growth that went up there.
Cool, cool. Anyone has any questions that they would like to ask Daniel? Great. We're just coming with the microphone now.
Hello, thank you for a very interesting presentation. I actually had 2 questions, and the first one was already answered, which was the most interesting, I guess. And the second is, how did you say fight with competitors? You showed that the first interface was kind of simple, let's say so. And the idea is unique by itself. So obviously there could be some company that would like to copy it, or maybe some big company that had more resources, more sources to advertise. So how did it happen that through all these 2 years, while you grew your audience to 100 million users, no one copied it?
Oh, we had a couple of copycats, to be
you.
honest. After a few weeks, we discovered our first copycat in Turkey. That was a Dutch guy, well, actually a Turkish guy who lived in the Netherlands. He went back to Turkey and built a Turkish version of Dubsmash. The thing is, if you build something with a team and you have a clear vision where you want to go, you're always faster than copycats. So it didn't take that long until we had a Turkish version translated and got content in, and then basically ramped it up. The good thing is in Germany, for example, there's quite a big Turkish community, so they already started loading sound onto the platform. But talking about larger companies with more resources, I think in the space that we on the one hand side build some good tech, because the videos itself, they get like rendered on the device, so we don't upload them. We do all the processing on the devices itself, so we definitely have a technical advantage. And by now we build up a sound library that is so unique that it's not easy to copy, because millions of sound files categorized with metadata enriched. We have algorithms in place which detect languages, or whether it's speech or music and all that stuff. That's stuff that's not that easy to copy. Of course, this space is super crowded. There are a lot of players looking into that. We constantly look out who else is doing stuff in that space, but I think we are just faster than the others.
Great, thank you. Anyone else has some questions? Dubsmash, guys. No one else? I can also translate. If you can't say it in English, I can also translate it from Russian. All right, then another question from me.
Yes.
So, how do you feel about, all different new trends coming up, in the app industry? And right now we see, that a lot of social apps are getting so hyped up. What do you think will be next? What is the next that people are going to be so excited about?
I think that the trend of social apps will not stop that quickly, because if you look into your lives, who are the people you interact with? Your working colleagues, your football team, your family, your friends from school maybe. So there are a couple of peer groups that you regularly interact with, and getting that into the mobile space is a quite natural progression, I would say. So I think the social component will always be there. What I think the trend is going towards more and more is the whole video part and the way how we communicate. You can see that with apps like Masquerade, for example. That's pretty interesting stuff, because they overcome the intimidation a little bit by putting a face mask on your face, because people obviously don't like the way they look sometimes. And that's the same why filters on Instagram are working that good, because people don't feel comfortable seeing themselves. But if you put a filter on, then you might look better. So we'll have more and more stuff coming up in that space, video, and maybe even looking into the next 5 years maybe. I think VR and 360 is something that's going to be big. Right now, the hardware is not ready yet, I would say, because I cannot take a 360 picture out of here like within a second. I really have to record everything. That takes way too long for the creation. But I think a clever mind will find a solution for that one, because if you share 360 surroundings, it gives you an even better impression on how the situation, what's going on right now in here, instead of just a simple photo shot. So I think we're going to see some stuff in that space as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Daniel. Some questions? Oh, yay. Cool. Question? There's a question? That's Jordan, or? That's Jordan.
Hey there. Great presentation. Question for you. So when you're thinking about product design, there's a lot of time the discrepancy between what is a feature and what is a product. You guys have done a great job building a product out of something that was that core innovation, that idea of, like what Jimmy Fallon was showing off. talk to us a little bit about how you see where you see the long term being, and as well from an investment perspective or a financing perspective, how you go and you pitch the company to investors and talk about, again, this being a long-term business, a Facebook, a Snapchat kind of platform, as opposed to just a one-off feature.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, a lot of these super hyped apps that recently came up, and I'm counting Masquerade, for example, into it. For me, Masquerade is more a product feature than a product itself. It's a creational tool. It's something that we're working also on. It's not that hard to build, actually. They made it pretty good, though. So finding the right feature set in order to build a product that people would like to use or would love to use over a very long term is important. The whole app market is really fast and really constantly changing. So for us as a product company, it's always about having the right features to keep the people entertained. And by getting the people on the platform, of course, we gather data. Which is always interesting in terms of monetization and long term, because in order to sell soundboards, for example, to brands or movie studios, they want to segment, they want metadata, they want targeting options. And the good thing is we know, for example, which language people speak, which is not that easy for a platform like Facebook, for example, because the user selects that in the way how he interacts with which content. We know what language that content is, for example. That's quite interesting, where we can build up a competitive advantage over other platforms. In general, it's really building a system where people stay long-term, where you can collect a lot of data that you can actually leverage in making advertisement, targeting, segmentation possible. And I think this is where we also see ourselves in the end. Of course, for us, the users is the focus. If you're building something that is not for the user, you're going to fail in the long term. But as other companies have been shown, if you have the traction and if you have the traffic, then there's always a way to monetize that on large scale.
Cool. Thank you very much. I think we're going to finish on that one because we will have another speaker coming up now. But thank you very much, Daniel. It was a great presentation.
Thanks, guys.
And